3 hours ago, Elliot Williams was a billionaire who cared about nothing but profit. Now, he's watching a 10-year-old boy perform CPR on his dying mother while paramedics rush through the door. "Mom, please, don't leave me." But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me take you back to where it all started. 12 hours earlier, Elliot Williams made a decision that would shatter everything he thought he knew about wealth, power, and what it means to be human. He stopped his car. Rain hammered the Mercedes as Elliot Williams crawled through Cedar Springs, a town he'd left behind 15 years ago and swore he'd never return to. At 32, he'd built a tech empire worth $3 billion. Every second here felt like money bleeding away. Then he saw the boy, maybe 10 years old, pressed against the brick wall of Rosie's diner like he was trying to disappear. No umbrella, no jacket. Just a faded red shirt hanging loose on his skeletal frame, and jeans with holes at the knees. Rain plastered his dark hair to his forehead, and even from inside the car, Elliot could see him shivering. "Keep driving," his mind commanded. "Not your problem, flight to catch." But something made him stop. Maybe it was the boy's eyes, gray-blue like storm clouds, following each person who entered the diner, hope flickering and dying with each passing stranger. Or maybe it was something deeper, a memory of what powerlessness felt like. Elliot pulled to the curb and stepped out into the rain. "Hey," Elliot said, approaching. "You okay?" The boy looked up, startled. His eyes held a wariness no child should possess. "I'm fine." Elliot knew a lie when he heard one. "You're soaking wet, standing in the rain. That doesn't look fine to me." He crouched to the boy's eye level. "What's your name?" "Max." "I'm Elliot. Have you eaten today?" The question hung between them. Max's jaw tightened. Then his shoulders sagged. He shook his head. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday morning, at school." Max's voice cracked. They had breakfast, toast and orange juice. Yesterday morning. Elliot's chest tightened. He'd barely touched his catered hotel breakfast that morning. "Why are you out here, Max?" The boy looked down at his worn sneakers. "I was hoping maybe someone would need help carrying groceries, for a few dollars. My mom—" His voice trailed off. "She's sick. Really sick. And my dad tries, but there's never enough." Elliot stood slowly. Rain streaming down his face. Every logical part of his brain screamed to walk away. But when he looked at Max, this small, shivering boy with empty stomach and fierce pride, logic didn't matter. "Come on," Elliot said. "Let me buy you something to eat." Max's eyes widened. "I can't. I don't take charity." Pride in those words twisted something in Elliot's chest. "It's not charity. Consider it payment for teaching me something important." "What did I teach you?" Elliot smiled. It felt strange on his face. "I'm still figuring that out." Max studied him for a long moment, then nodded. In the car, warmth from the heater filled the space. Max's shoulders slowly relaxed. "Could we get something to go?" Max asked quietly. "Something I could take home?" "You want to take food home to your family?" Max nodded. And Elliot knew this wasn't going to be simple. Something about this moment was going to change everything. "Okay," Elliot said. "We'll get food to go. But first, let me drive you home. I want to make sure you get there safely." Max's face went pale. "You don't have to." "I want to." Max whispered an address on the east side of town. As they drove, the streets transformed. Neat shops gave way to boarded windows. Houses grew smaller, paint peeling, yards overgrown with weeds. Max slumped lower with each block, as if trying to become invisible. "This is a nice car," Max said suddenly. "Thanks. Gift to myself when my company went public." "That sounds important." "It is. Or at least, I thought it was." They turned onto a street where houses looked more like shacks. Max pointed to a house at the end. gray or maybe once white, with a sagging roof, one window covered with cardboard. The yard was mud and weeds, with a rusted car on blocks. This was home. Elliot pulled up, heart sinking. "Wait here." He drove to a grocery store and filled a cart with everything: bread, milk, eggs, chicken, vegetables, fruit, pasta, canned goods, vitamins, medicine. $347. He didn't blink. Back at Max's house, the boy's mouth fell open at the groceries. "This is too much. I bought too much for myself. You're helping me by taking it." A transparent lie, but Max helped carry bags anyway. As they set down the last bags, the front door creaked open. A man stood there, tall but hunched, maybe 40 but looking decades older. Gaunt face, gray hair, red-rimmed, exhausted eyes. "Max? What's all this?" "Dad, this is Elliot. He gave me a ride and bought us food." The man looked at Elliot with suspicion and shame. "We don't need charity." "It's not charity, sir. Your son helped me today." The man, Max's father, looked at the groceries, then his son, then back. "Thank you. That's very kind." Elliot turned to leave. "Elliot," Max called, "will I see you again?" The question caught him off guard. "Yeah, Max, you will." As Elliot drove away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. Max stood waving, a small smile on his face. The first smile Elliot had seen. Elliot drove 2 blocks, then stopped. His flight left in 3 hours. He should be heading to the airport. But he couldn't shake the image, the sagging roof, the cardboard window, the exhaustion in the father's eyes. Max's words. "My mom is really sick. 10 minutes." He'd just drive back to make sure they were okay, then leave. He turned the car around. As Elliot approached the house again, he saw the front door standing ajar. Through the gap, he heard voices, urgent, worried. Then Max's voice, high and frightened. "Dad, she's not breathing right, please." Elliot was out of the car and up the porch steps before he consciously decided to move. "Hello? Is everything okay?" The door swung open. Max's father stood there, face ashen. "I don't know what to do. She's gotten worse. I can't afford an ambulance." "Let me see her." Elliot stepped inside. The interior matched the exterior: bare walls, water stains, salvaged furniture, the smell of mildew. On a worn couch lay a woman. Elliot's breath caught. She was skeletal, cheekbones jutting sharply, skin gray, breathing shallow and labored. Eyes closed, chest struggling to rise and fall. Max knelt beside her, holding her hand, face streaked with tears. "How long has she been like this?" Elliot asked, voice steady despite alarm coursing through him. 2 years, cancer, lost my job, lost our insurance. She's been fighting, but... Max's father covered his face. "I've been working 3 jobs, but it's never enough." "Call 911, Elliot said firmly. "I can't afford..." "Call 911, now. I'll handle the costs." "You don't even know us." "Because I can. And if I walk away and something happens, I'll never forgive myself." Max's father stared, then with shaking hands, dialed. Elliot moved closer. Max looked up, eyes swimming with tears. "Is my mom going to die?" Elliot wanted to lie, but Max deserved truth. "I don't know, but we're going to do everything we can. I promise." The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. 7 minutes that felt like 7 hours. "I'll drive him," Elliot said, as paramedics loaded Max's mother. "We'll meet you there." In the car, Max sat perfectly still, hands clasped, knuckles white. "She used to sing," Max said suddenly, "before she got sick. Beautiful voice. She'd sing while cooking. Old songs her mom taught her, made up silly lyrics to make me laugh." Elliot glanced at him. "Then she got tired, started losing weight, then..." Max's voice cracked. "She stopped singing. I miss hearing her voice when it was strong." "You'll hear it again," Elliot said, surprised by his certainty. "I promise, Max." He had no business making promises he couldn't keep. But looking at Max's desperate hope, Elliot knew he'd do whatever it took. At the hospital, Max's father met them in the waiting room, head in hands. They took her back. It's critical. They asked about insurance. I told them we don't have any. Don't worry about that, Elliot interrupted. Focus on your wife. I can't let you pay. It'll be tens of thousands. Then let me worry about tens of thousands. You worry about your family. Hours passed. Elliot made calls, canceling his flight, his meetings, to his attorney about covering medical expenses, to a childhood friend who'd become an oncologist, asking for consultation. Max fell asleep curled in a chair, head on his father's lap. Elliot watched this small, broken family held together by love and stubbornness, and felt something fundamental shift in his chest. At midnight, a doctor emerged. "Are you Sarah Brennan's family?" Max's father stood quickly. "Yes." "How is she?" "Stable for now. We've run tests. The cancer has advanced significantly, but with aggressive treatment, there's a real chance." Aggressive treatment means chemotherapy, radiation. "I can't afford." The doctor looked at Elliot, who nodded. "All costs are covered. Mr. Williams has made arrangements. If Sarah agrees, we start tomorrow." Max's father turned to Elliot, tears streaming. "Why? We're nobody to you." "You're not nobody. And maybe I needed to remember I'm not either." Max was crying too, shoulders shaking. Elliot put a hand on the boy's shoulder, a gesture that felt foreign but necessary. "Can we see her?" Max asked. "Soon. She's sedated, but we'll get you when she's settled." After the doctor left, Max's father extended his hand. "I'm Daniel Brennan. I don't know how to thank you." Elliot shook it. "You just did." They sat back down. Elliot studied Daniel Brennan, worn hands speaking of labor, tired eyes that had seen too much hardship. "Can I ask how you ended up like this?" Daniel didn't seem offended. "I was a construction foreman. Good job, benefits. Sarah was a teacher. We were comfortable. Then the housing crash, construction dried up. Burned through savings, lost our house. Then Sarah got sick, and everything fell apart." "No family to help?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "My father disowned me when I married Sarah. Said she wasn't good enough for our family name. Haven't spoken in 15 years. Something in family name caught Elliot's attention. "Your father's name? Why does it matter?" "Just curious." Daniel hesitated. "Richard Brennan. Owns a hotel chain, Brennan International." Elliot's blood went cold. Richard Brennan. One of the wealthiest men in America. Ruthless businessman. Elliot had met him once, cold, dismissive, devoid of warmth. And somewhere that man had a son living in poverty, a grandson standing in rain, hoping for odd jobs. "Does he know?" Elliot asked quietly. "About Sarah, how you're living?" "I tried 3 years ago when we lost the house, called his office. They said he has no son." Daniel's voice was flat. "Haven't tried again." Elliot stood abruptly, walked to the window, mind racing. He made a call to a private investigator. "Find out everything about Richard Brennan. Family history, relationships, estrangements, everything. By morning." When he hung up, Max was watching with those storm cloud eyes. "What are you going to do?" Elliot looked at this courageous child and made a decision. "I'm going to fix this. All of it." A nurse appeared. "You can see her now, room 317. They took the elevator up. Sarah was barely awake. Her eyes fluttered open when she heard Max's voice. "Mom," Max whispered, taking her hand. "You're going to be okay." Sarah's gaze moved to Elliot. Confusion flickered. "He's a friend," Max said. "He helped us." Sarah's lips formed soundless words. "Thank you." Elliot nodded, throat tight. He'd come to Cedar Springs for a business meeting. 4 hours, in and out. Instead, he'd found a purpose he didn't know he was looking for. What would you do in Elliot's position? Comment below. Morning light woke Elliot in the waiting room chair. His phone buzzed. The investigator. Richard Brennan's son married Sarah Chen against his wishes 22 years ago. Richard cut him off completely. But here's the interesting part. Richard's will leaves everything to Daniel, provided Daniel makes contact before Richard's death. Daniel tried 3 years ago. Richard never knew. His assistant, Margaret Phillips, has been intercepting all communications for years. She's seeing Richard's attorney. They're planning to contest the will when he dies and split the estate. Elliot's grip tightened. So, Richard thinks Daniel never reached out. Exactly. Classic manipulation. Elliot thanked him and made another call. To Richard Brennan's direct private line. 4 rings. A weak voice answered. Yes? Mr. Brennan, Elliot Williams. We met in New York. I'm calling about your son. Silence. Then, I don't have a son. Yes, you do, Daniel. Married to Sarah. They have a 10-year-old named Max. Right now, they're at Cedar Springs Medical Center because Sarah is dying of cancer, and Daniel's been working 3 jobs trying to keep them alive. More silence. Labored breathing. My son chose his path. No, someone named Margaret Phillips chose it for him. She's been blocking his attempts to reach you. She and your attorney are planning to steal your estate. That's impossible. Margaret's been loyal. She's stealing from you. Your grandson was standing in the rain yesterday, hoping strangers would pay him to carry groceries. Your daughter-in-law couldn't afford cancer treatment. Your son thinks you hate him. He heard something that might have been a sob. Where are they? Cedar Springs Medical Center, room 317. I'm in Boston. I have a private jet. 3 hours. Long pause. Why are you doing this? Because yesterday, I almost didn't stop for a hungry kid in the rain. And if I had, I wouldn't have found what I've been missing for years. What's that? A reason to be wealthy that actually matters. 3 hours later, Elliot stood in the hospital parking lot as a town car arrived. Richard Brennan emerged. Not the imposing businessman Elliot remembered, but a frail old man bent with illness, leaning heavily on a cane. Gaunt face, yellow skin, sunken eyes burning with determination. Room 317? Richard asked, voice raspy. Yes, but they don't know you're coming. Daniel thinks you rejected him. Richard nodded slowly. I've wasted 15 years being a fool. No time for caution. At the door, Richard paused. Through the window, they saw Daniel beside Sarah's bed, Max curled in a chair reading to his mother. That's my grandson, Richard whispered with wonder. I have a grandson. His name is Max. Brave, proud, kind, just like his father. Richard's eyes filled. I've missed so much. Then don't miss any more. Richard knocked. Daniel looked up, saw who stood there. His face went white. Dad? Richard stepped in, 15 years of pain crashing between them. Daniel, I'm sorry. God help me, I'm so sorry. Daniel stood, taking a hesitant step. You said you didn't have a son. I was lied to. Told you never tried to contact me. I believed it because I was angry and stubborn. I've regretted it every day. Max watched, eyes wide. Who are you? Richard turned, genuine warmth spreading across his dying face. I'm your grandfather. I've been foolish, but if you'll let me, I'd like to spend whatever time I have left making up for it. Sarah stirred. Richard? Is that really you? Hello, Sarah. I was wrong about you. Wrong about everything. Daniel's legs gave out. He sat on Sarah's bed edge, tears streaming, years of rejection and pain flowing out. I tried to reach you. When we lost everything, when Sarah got sick. I know now. Margaret kept us apart. She's been fired. Police are investigating, but that doesn't matter. What matters is I'm here, if you'll have me. Max made the decision. He walked to Richard and studied him, then held out his hand. I'm Max. Nice to meet you. Richard took his grandson's hand, then pulled Max into a gentle hug. For the first time in 15 years, Daniel saw his father cry. Elliot stepped back, slipping into the hallway. His chest was tight with emotions he couldn't name. He'd orchestrated billion-dollar mergers, negotiated with world leaders, built an empire, but nothing had ever felt as significant as this. A nurse passed. "Are you okay, sir?" Elliot realized he was crying. He wiped his eyes. "Yeah, better than okay." Inside, voices grew stronger. Daniel and Richard talking, explanations and apologies tumbling out. Sarah crying softly. Max asking questions with innocent curiosity. Elliot's phone buzzed, his assistant about missed meetings, waiting investors, deals needing attention. He typed, "Clear my schedule for 2 weeks," then turned his phone off completely. 6 months later. Elliot stood in Richard Brennan's Boston estate watching Max work on a laptop, a gift Elliot had given him for learning to code. Max looked different now. Healthy, color in his cheeks, weight gained, clothes that fit. His face bright with excitement. "Elliot, look!" Max pulled up a website. The Helper Network across the top. It's a site where people can post if they need help. Hungry, sick, need a ride. Other people offer help. I thought if something like this existed, my dad wouldn't have felt so alone. Elliot stared, emotion clogging his throat. This 10-year-old had created a solution to the isolation he'd lived through. "Max, this is brilliant." "Really? You think it could work?" "I think it could change everything. Let me make some calls. We can make this real, scale it, add features, launch properly. Like a real company? With you as founder." "But I'm just a kid." "You're someone who sees problems and creates solutions. That's what the best entrepreneurs do." They spent hours sketching plans. Elliot would provide funding and mentorship. Professional developers would build out Max's vision, launch through a new foundation, then expand. Later, the family gathered in the living room. Richard was in his wheelchair now, illness advancing, but his eyes were bright. Sarah sat wrapped in a blanket. She'd lost her hair to chemo, but the gray pallor was gone. She looked alive. "We have news," Max announced, explaining the website and Elliot's offer. Sarah's eyes filled. "My baby is launching a startup." "Not just any startup," Elliot said. "One that could help thousands of families, maybe millions." Richard smiled, that proud grandfather smile. "The Brennan family is back in business, the right kind this time." They talked late into the night. At one point, Sarah started humming, then singing. An old lullaby, voice rusty but beautiful. Max's head snapped up. "Mom, you're singing." Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, surprised. Then she laughed, and the laugh turned into more singing. Elliot had promised Max he'd hear his mother sing again. He'd kept his promise. Later, Richard called Elliot into the study. "Sit." Elliot sat. "I'm dying. A month, maybe less. I wanted to say what needs to be said." Richard's breathing was labored. "You gave me the greatest gift. Time. Time with my son, daughter-in-law, grandson. Time to fix my mistakes. You did that yourself. You opened the door. I just walked through." Richard took Elliot's hand. "Promise me something. Anything. Stay with them. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Be the man Daniel can rely on. The mentor Max needs. Be family. I promise. And promise you won't forget what you learned. That wealth without purpose is just weight. The only numbers that matter are lives you touch. I won't forget." 3 weeks later, Richard passed peacefully, surrounded by family. The funeral was enormous, but the eulogy that mattered came from Max. The 10-year-old stood at the podium, small but steady. "My grandpa made a lot of money in his life, but that's not what made him rich. What made him rich was learning family matters more than anything. That love is worth more than gold. That it's never too late to say sorry." He paused. "And he taught me that second chances aren't given. They're seized." He seized his. Because of him, my mom got her second chance too. Not a dry eye in the church. 1 year later, Elliot returned to Cedar Springs. He drove to that same diner and parked in the same spot where he'd first seen Max. Rain tapped against the windows just like that day. He thought about fate and choice and moments that change everything. What if he'd driven past? His phone rang. Max's face on the screen. "Elliot, the Helper Network just hit 1 million connections, 1 million people helping each other." Elliot's heart swelled. "That's incredible, Max." "It's because you stopped that day." "No, it's because you stood in the rain, because you reminded me what it means to be human." Max grinned. "We make a good team. The best team." After hanging up, Elliot sat watching the rain, remembering. He thought about wealth, real wealth, not bank accounts, but richness of meaningful connections, the fortune of being loved and needed. He thought about Max growing into the man he was meant to be. Sarah's voice singing again. Daniel's gratitude and Richard's redemption. Second chances and the power of simple kindness. All the families being helped right now because one billionaire stopped for one hungry boy on one rainy day. True wealth wasn't about what you accumulated. It was about what you gave away. Not building walls, but building bridges. Not being the richest person in the room, but making sure everyone had enough. Elliot started his car, heading toward the future, toward the Foundation's next project, toward Max's next lesson, toward Sunday dinner with his family, toward a life that finally meant something. Because sometimes, the most important thing you'll ever do is stop. Just stop. And see who needs you. What would you do if you had the power to change someone's life overnight? This story reminds us we all have that power. Maybe not with millions, but with our time, attention, willingness to stop and see those who feel invisible. Elliot's transformation from cold businessman to compassionate mentor happened because he made one choice: to stop when others would drive past. Max's courage, standing in the rain, holding dignity in desperate circumstances, loving his family through unimaginable hardship, shows us strength isn't about what you have. It's about who you are when you have nothing. Richard's redemption proves it's never too late to fix mistakes, rebuild broken relationships, choose love over pride. So here's my question. Who have you been driving past? Who needs you to stop, to see them, to show them they matter? Maybe someone standing in rain, hoping for a miracle. Maybe someone right in front of you, waiting to be noticed. Whatever your resources, money, time, skills, or simply presence, you have power to change a life. The only question is, will you stop? If this story touched your heart, reminded you that kindness creates ripples that change the world, subscribe for more stories that restore faith in humanity. Share this with someone who needs to remember they matter. And most importantly, look around. Someone near you is waiting for their Elliot. Maybe today, you can be the one who stops. Thank you for watching. Now go be someone's miracle.